Liberty German and Abigail Williams. Libby and Abby, aged 14 and 13, went for a walk on a well-known local trail in Delphi, Indiana on February 13th, 2017.
Libby and Abby, as they were known, were dropped off at the trailhead near the abandoned railroad bridge known as the Monon High Bridge at 1:35 p.m. on an unseasonably warm day.
The girls were never seen alive by family or friends again. They were abducted, their bodies found in a wooded area about a half-mile away.
It wasn't until 5 years later, in October of 2022, that an arrest is made. 2 years later, the trial is finally scheduled for October 2024, with serious questions continuing to swirl around the case. It's been over 7 years since Libby and Abby went missing. But what's happening next? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
So even though, they had a suspect 2 years ago, and it seems like things are moving along.
Well, yeah, Richard Allen had actually given a statement within days after Libby and Abby disappearing. And the statement was just kind of filed away. And now all kinds of questions have come up. There were 3 days of hearings looking at some of the issues that will come up at the trial in October, motions to suppress and some other matters. And it was out in Indiana. And let's take a look at an article that was in the Daily Mail. The title is Haunting New Details About Delphi Murders, Revealed in Court as Expert Claims the Indiana girls' deaths are textbook examples of a ritualistic killing. This is really nothing new. The article starts out with mostly background, but we will get into some new issues. The Delphi murders suspects' lawyers claim a pagan cult sacrificed the 2 teenage girls who were snatched from that hiking trail, and the confessed killer is innocent, is what they say. Libby and Abby disappeared February 13th, 2017, while hiking the Monon High Bridge Trail in Delphi, Indiana. Richard Allen was charged with those murders in October 2022 after police linked a bullet found at the scene to his gun. Very little about the case has been revealed over the past 7 years, other than leaks from inside the investigation, until 3 days of hearings that were held right at the end of July. So they have, that's actually Mr. Allen, the suspect. The Carroll County Court heard the girls were found with their throats cut, branches laid on top of their remains, and Abby's body wearing Libby's clothes. Abby and Libby set out on the trail at 1:35 p.m., and Libby posted a photo at 2:07 p.m. of Abby walking around the bridge. Abby and Libby set out on the trail at about 1:35 p.m., and Libby posted a photo at 2:07 p.m. of Abby walking along the bridge. Police believe they were kidnapped at 2:14 p.m. and killed within 18 minutes.
Prosecutors told the court that Allen confessed to the murders more than 60 times in jail phone calls to his wife and mother and to another inmate. Carroll County Prosecutor Nicholas McLeland also claimed Allen's intent was when he allegedly kidnapped the girls. Allen's lawyers, led by Bradley Rossi, claimed that the confessions were a result of his degrading mental state due to being locked in solitary confinement. Yeesh. They last year named 4 other people as members of the cult of Norse god Odin, arguing the girls were killed in a ritual sacrifice. Indiana State Police Detective Brian Harshman testified about the confessions after listening to 150 hours of phone calls. He said the confessions began on late March 2023 after he had come to Jesus moment, and Allen spoke very specifically about details of the crime and why he did it.
And this is very controversial because, there were all kinds of allegations about the conditions in the jail. Here's a picture of Liberty. Last picture that was ever taken of Libby. Her friend, Abby, took that picture and sent it out as they were crossing that Monon High Bridge. And what a sad story. What a sad story.
And I do want to point out, too, that it mentions that the photo is from Snapchat. And one of the things about Snapchat is that any random person too, I mean, depending on what your profile settings are, people can just add you and see what you're posting without you even knowing who they are or being connected to them.
I'd like to point out also that take a look at the caption here that Abby was seen in this Snapchat video posted by her friend Libby just moments before both of them were murdered. So how sad. Indiana State Police Lieutenant Jerry Holman also testified that an inmate alleged Allen confessed to him as well and revealed the murder weapon. Allen allegedly told him he murdered the girls with a box cutter, then dumped it in a dumpster outside a CVS. Defense lawyers want the confessions thrown out because they were a product of Allen's mental breakdown while being treated like a prisoner of war in a jail. And you know what? He was being held not in a county holding cell. He is, for gosh sake, he is, whatever you think of him, he is accused. He's not convicted. He is entitled to a presumption of innocence. And yet they're holding him in a prison. They're holding him in a state prison. They held him for a very long period of time in solitary confinement. And many of us would contend that it was a coerced confession. So I don't care if he confessed 100,000 times. They brought in a psychologist. Now we're getting to what happened in these hearings. They brought in a psychologist contracted by the Indiana Department of Corrections to testify in support of that argument. Rosie's team instead point the finger at the four Odinists, including the father of Abby's boyfriend at the time of her death. Dawn Perlmutter, an expert on ritualistic crimes, testified that this crime scene is a textbook for ritualistic murder. She claimed the crime scene had 7 indicators of an Odinist ritualistic killing, including the positioning of the branches on their bodies. Laney, do you remember we did an episode on that, and we actually showed photographs of, it was a diagram of how the bodies were found and the sticks that were placed on top of them. Remember that?
Yeah, and especially anybody watching, after you're done with this video, consider going back and checking our older videos on this subject, because there's a lot of weird coincidences with what is it, like the patches that the police officers were wearing and stuff like that. It's a very bizarre case where there's definitely a lot of things, like you said, like the positioning of the branches that just seem really off.
Yeah, I'll link that down in the description below so people can check that. Perlmutter said she reviewed autopsy records, crime scene photos, and social media posts of some of the alleged Odinists. And when asked if he had any doubt the girls were sacrificed in a pagan ritual, she replied, none at all. It's just a map that was in the newspaper article in the Daily Mail. Photographs of Libby and Abby, and the photograph that they took over their shoulder of the person that was behind them. There's photos of the family members of Libby German and Abby Williams at a press conference after Allen was arrested. It took them 5 years. Took them 5 years after the girls disappeared to arrest Mr. Allen. McClellan moved to discredit her testimony by noting she came to the same conclusion in a court TV report last year before she saw any of the evidence. He asked her what her response would be if the alleged killer said that the intent was assault. The prosecutor also contested her theory that the branches were laid over the bodies to form ritualistic or runic symbols, noting Allen said that the branches were there to cover the girls' bodies. Perlmutter argued blood smeared on a tree in one leaked crime scene photo was painted to form the letter F, which holds significance in Norse mythology. Yeah, we went into that in the previous episode. It's just too gruesome to really go into again.
But Patrick Cicero, a blood specialist and forensics expert from LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, said it was more likely a transfer stain from Libby's bloody hand. Purposefully painting a symbol on tree would have involved the killer repeatedly dipping their hand on blood, he said. Perlmutter admitted there was no physical evidence of tying any of the 4 men to the crime scene. Other witnesses claimed one or more of the supposed Odinists also confessed to killing the girls. Kevin Murphy, a retired Indiana State police officer who worked on the case from 2017 to 2019, told the court there was an undeniable link between Delphi and the Odinist cult in nearby Rushville. He said the police believed the murders were work of the 2 to 6 people, and he focused on one of the alleged cultists, Elvis Fields. Murphy told the court Field's sister gave very specific information that only someone at the crime scene would know. In a recorded call with her brother, she blurted out, "Elvis, why did you kill those girls?" Fields denied the accusations to the police, but Murphy said that he asked him if he would get in trouble if his spit was found on the girls. Brad Holder, the father of Abby's girlfriend and accused Odinist, was another person Allen's defense zeroed in on. His ex-wife, Amber Holder, testified that Holder told her third alleged cultist, Patrick Westfield, confessed to killing Abby, but she acknowledged Holder was drunk when he relayed the story to her. She claimed he told her to keep my mouth shut, and if I didn't, they'd kill, presumably me. Amber told the court Holder had a special knife he used to cut his hands during the Odinist rituals, which could be the murder weapon. Former Rushville Police Department officer Todd Click, who helped with the investigation, told the court he believed the Odinist theory. He said that his theory was the girls interrupted a pagan ritual and were killed for it. He also believed Holder and Westfall were on the trail that day, but there was no smoking gun, physical evidence tying them to the crime scene.
I have a question, and that is, how did the girls allegedly interrupt a pagan ritual if they were up on the bridge? It's like a rail trail, which we have all over the country now. I go on the rail trail frequently. There's one near my office. So it's a public thing. Why would they be holding a pagan ritual close enough that the girls who were just hiking on the trail, we believe, would have interrupted it? They were found the next day about half a mile away in a heavily wooded area. So that doesn't have, I don't know if that has the ring of truth. I mean, who knows? It's so bizarre. But the other thing that is just a real question, and that is, okay, they're 2 girls. They're 13 and 14 years old at that time. How does one guy allegedly, incapacitate both of them?
Yeah.
One teenage girl, maybe, but how does one guy incapacitate 2 girls at the same time? It's
Well, and the incapacitating 2 at the same time, as unlikely as it seems, that almost gives more of lenience to them having walked in on the cult, especially since they were so far away. I mean, we don't know the carrying 1 body versus carrying 2 bodies. Like, I don't know what chloroform is really, if you can really make someone like pass out as people think they do. But it could be that, the girls were walking on the rail trail and, as kids tend to do, went off and explored and got themselves a little bit further off trail, walking in on something. But I agree with you in the sense that, like, if they're gonna do like a cult thing, you would think that it would be not half a mile within a public place. And also beyond that, I mean, kids walk in on something weird, they can also, run away. So there's a lot of questions. It's just like, were the girls on the rail trail at the time they went missing? Were the girls knocked out and dragged, or did multiple people come and find them? Because I can't imagine 14 years old,
no,
13 years old. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough for me. I can't believe that Mr. Allen would have done this himself. I mean, there are a lot of comments, and you can comment down below. Because there are a lot of different theories swirling around this. It's just hard for me to believe that one guy would have done it. I mean, there are a lot of questions as to whether Mr. Allen even did it, or what had anything to do with it. And then others say it had to be multiple people, and Allen may have been one of them, or he just knew about it. But go ahead.
Another thing, sorry, not to cut you off, but the Snapchat app also usually saves people's locations, which is something that would be interesting to see, like, how they progress throughout the day.
Well, law enforcement has not been forthcoming in this case, so we don't know what evidence they do have, and we don't know what evidence they don't have. In any event, Holder, who is a person of interest in my mind, but not in law enforcement's, because he was cleared by the main investigators based on an alibi of him clocking out of work at a landfill site about an hour from Delphi at 2:45 p.m. when the crime was believed to have occurred at 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. He then used a key fob to get into a gym in Logansport at 4:08 p.m. Prosecutors asked Judge Fran Gull to throw out all testimony claiming the Odinists were responsible and ban the theory from the trial. She has yet to rule on that. A Crime Nation documentary in February further claimed that Libby was almost beheaded out of rage and named yet another suspect. The admission was another indication. I don't see how one person could have done this. The admission was seen in texts from someone on the scene that later leaked online, also claiming whoever did it targeted Libby for sure and that the 14-year-old girl fought like hell. The documentary pointed to the man who owned the property where the girls were discovered, Ron Logan, with chilling new claims from his ex-girlfriend. Logan, who died in January 2022 from COVID, was one of the first suspects investigators looked into, and he made several media appearances in the aftermath of the murderers as they gained national attention. And there's a picture of Mr. Logan, who owned the property where the teen girls were found, and he's claimed to be the true killer in the new documentary by his ex-girlfriend.
A key piece of evidence in the case was a grainy video found on Libby's phone of a man walking along the trail saying, "Guys down the hill." Police released the footage on February 22nd, 2017, and said the man in the video was the prime suspect. When the video emerged, Logan appeared on the Inside Edition to claim he didn't recognize the person or the voice from anyone he'd seen on his property. But his ex-girlfriend, Connie Dillman, has claimed she is in no doubt it was Logan in the clips and said she insists the authorities her ex is the killer. "That's your voice," she said of Logan. "I heard the voice of down the hill thousands of times. It's Ron Logan." Dillman said she began her 6-year relationship with Logan after meeting him in a bar in Delphi, and they quickly bonded over the love of their horses and the outdoors. But she said their relationship went downhill before long. He began controlling her every day and treating her like a S tool because we don't want to get restricted monetizing.
Yeah, so that's just one of the reasons why it's not a good thing that investigations like this take so long. I mean, there was a 5-year delay between the time Libby and Abby disappeared and then the time the charges were brought, because this is an example, the stereotypical reason why you want things to move more quickly. Witnesses pass away, suspects pass away, and this guy, I don't know if he had anything to do with it or not. His name is mentioned, but he's no longer around to, speak for himself or again. Of course, he would have a Fifth Amendment right not to say anything, but I mean, he's not around to be questioned. He's not around to be brought into the trial and to face charges. So, I mean, it's just, it's pretty awful that these things go on for a long, long, long time. So I'm going to go past some of this stuff because the article, it's a very long article. We're not going to read it all. There's the photograph that they took of the man behind them that said down here.
Yeah.
The last video taken on Libby's cell phone showed a man in a blue Carhartt jacket and jeans approaching them. After the murders captured national attention, law enforcement came under fire for not releasing details of the crime, a factor they cited in wanting to keep control over the investigation and not release information only the killer would have known. Among the frustration for information, awful text messages leaked online from someone at the crime scene, which the documentary claimed were shared by Abby's uncle, David Erskine. And that text read, "Me and my other sister's boyfriend," a great grammar here. "Me and my other sister's boyfriend." I know I'm going to get comments for that. I know I'm going to get comments. "Why are you so snarky? You're making fun of other people's grammar." Okay. I'm sorry. It's not funny. It's just not. The text read, "Me and my other sister's boyfriend are the ones who found the girls Tuesday. Coroner's report stated everything was over by 3:30. Abby was dressed. Libby was nude. Libby's top half was covered with leaves and sticks, almost like they were trying to cover her. The only DNA would be from Libby's fingernails. She fought like hell. Whoever did it targeted Libby for sure and knew what they were doing with Abby. It was personal with Libby. There's no talk of why. Why was Libby? I mean, Libby is a little 14-year-old girl. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is like really sad. I don't want to read this whole article because it does go on for quite a while. It's just really sad. I have two stepdaughters, and I met them. I became involved in their family's life at about a little bit earlier than these two little girls. They were a few years younger than that. And, we did all kinds of stuff together, including hiking. I would take them hiking, and, they enjoyed that. They would pretend that they were part of a movie, and they would, just have a lot of fun. So to think that, the parents did nothing wrong. Libby and Abby are of the age when kids want to be independent. They want to go out. They want to do stuff on their own. They don't want the parents breathing down their necks the whole time. So the parents did nothing wrong. Sure, it was a beautiful day, unseasonably warm in February. And so they dropped them off at a rail trail, which is like, that sounds like a healthy thing to do. They're not hanging out with their screens. They're going out for a hike. And we all thought rail trails were pretty safe before this case. There's a case in Concord, New Hampshire, where a couple was shot and killed on the rail trail in Concord, New Hampshire. And what was the motive? There was no motive. The fellow that was tried and convicted, to this day, he's behind bars. And there's, what was the motive for that? What's the motive in this Delphi case? I mean, if it was a ritualistic thing, why did they pick Libby and Abby, and why are they saying Libby was targeted? They're young kids, I mean, so it makes no sense.
Yeah, well, not only they're young kids too, but it's interesting too because I believe it was Abby's boyfriend's dad was suspected of being one of the Odinists, but apparently Libby was the one that was seemingly targeted. We're never really gonna know, I don't think, what actually happened that day. We can gather evidence and make inferences, but like you said, Andrew, this, like, things like this is just like there is no reason. And it's worse too, like you said, it's just like when you have a teenager and you want to be able to just trust your kids. Like, how many parents are scared of putting their first kid on the bus when they go to preschool or kindergarten, and you would want to believe that you can just walk down on a rail trail and be safe and live your life and not have to worry about these crazy things like this happening. I think, we want there to be a logical reason it was this person because of this, but there's really no way of knowing for sure. And we do have the benefit of at least, having the Snapchats. And it's like, even as I talk and listen, I just like go through the article and I'm like crazy. As we're talking here, I'll even show you guys if I can show it real quick. It's like I sit here and it's just like I look at the picture of Richard Allen, and like, all these pictures I'm sitting here seeing his facial hair, and we see, Ron Logan, and I'm my crazy self is looking at the video, like wishing that we had clearer images. It's just like, well, as far as crimes go, we have what's potentially a lot more evidence for this than a lot of other cases. It doesn't help. You don't feel any more hope one way or another about being able to come to a solution. And with such differing accounts of what happened, and he said it happened while he was in solitary confinement, but this other person was drunk and independently said it. Were they just goofing around, or you never know?
Yeah. So it's such a horrible thing that you really don't want to even think about it. But sources close to the investigation claimed that Allen was acting with at least two other men. And McClellan openly stated that he believes Allen is not the only actor involved in this. And so, you hate to think of that as the motive, but that's something that's been suggested. So I guess we skipped enough of the article that we got to the bottom of it. And so now the question is, there were some motions to suppress that the court heard. We don't know how they're going to deal with that. But interestingly, as we know, the two attorneys had been kicked off the case by Judge Gull. They went up to the appeals court and they were placed back on the case. So there's got to be a lot of tension because Judge Gull, if you'll remember, kicked him out of the case unceremoniously, with no notice, with no due process, with no advance indication that that's what she was going to do. She kicked him out of the case. New attorneys were assigned. They were kicked out. And so now the old attorneys are back in the case. So the case had been scheduled for trial in May of 2024. Because of all the interruptions I just mentioned, it was put over until October of 2024. Let's see if it goes. But what a derailment of justice. There's an old saying that justice delayed is justice denied. So if it turns out that it wasn't Richard Allen and there was some involvement by this other fellow, Logan, he's gone. So, how can the investigators in that county justify just zeroing in on Richard Allen when he had given a statement to law enforcement only, a short period after Libby and Abby disappeared? I mean, how can law enforcement justify that? Makes zero sense. How can they justify the fact that they waited 5 years to charge someone who turned himself in for statement right after? So it's just one of those cases that makes you shake your head, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, a long time passed since the unfortunate deaths of the girls, and actually having a suspect where if it's taking you that long with the evidence you have to find someone, it's just like, how do you even know how valid that evidence is? It's like, and you are right, he did go in and he did try to contribute and help towards the case. And, maybe he's just, some people would argue like, oh, he's just doing a bad job and incriminating himself, whatever have you. But after so much time, like you said, it's just like, it's been going on for so long. If it turns out it's not him, how much longer are these people going to have to go to bed at night not knowing if they're really safe?
So, yeah, we haven't done a whole lot on this case recently. We're going to have to change that. We're going to have to dig back into it. We had done some research and we're going to start doing that again as October gets closer and closer. It's hard to believe we're talking about October, but we are. That's not that far off. So we will do some additional research and we will dig into the case. I just wanted to, I'd seen that these hearings, 3 days of hearings went by, and we were kind of busy with the Karen Reed case, which kind of distracted a lot of us, including us. And so I saw that. I figured we should just do a brief update. We've done our brief update. Thank you if you've been following along. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like more content on this and some other cases. We welcome your comments. Please comment. Be polite and respectful. I always say, whether you're in the grocery store or the gas station, be polite and respectful and do the same in the comments because we love your comments. You don't always agree with us, but that's okay. We read them all. And Lainey, we'll have to do another episode in the near future of people's comments.
Of course.
Nope. All right. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there. Or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions. And that's that.
And that's that.